feared and feared through Killarney. Now I'm back to hitching with the wind. But if Mickey Flynn should ever find me, I'll throw me caution all behind me and square off on that son of a bitch again. He cracked open a river too, he beat me Sunday through and through, and so jiggle my unconscious frame. I won me healthy sheriff fights, well lucky son still had me life since Mickey Flynn beat me dumb and lame.
Welcome back to another episode of Chasing the Pennant, I guess, because at this point, I don't know if we're chasing relievers, chasing fielding, just chasing a win, but we're sure not chasing a pennant right now with the way this team's playing. I'm here with my two co-hosts here, both Joes once again, and Borek and Biscuit. I mean, before we jump into a game like that, let's start with you, Biscuit. How are you feeling right now?
I don't know whether to laugh or cry at this point. I don't feel good. And after, a pretty good win yesterday, just to watch whatever the hell you want to call it tonight, I'm not happy at all.
No, I agree with you, and I mean, we'll get into it in a little bit to tell you why, but let's just say this team is lucky there are no fans because they deserve every single boo that they would have gotten tonight. This is where I kind of wish there were fans because I would want to hear the amount of boos that they would have had. But Borek, how you doing?
Not well. Not well from the Phillies game. I mean, I at least have hockey and baseball tied at my sport, so I got to enjoy a 5 overtime game to take me out of this misery when I was pissed off at our bullpen. So that took me away a little bit, but it didn't help enough. I mean, this bullpen stinks. We have bad fielding again, like T-Mac pointed out very clearly in tonight's game on the broadcast. And it's just like that was a John Mayberry Jr. play. That's what I tweeted. That's what I was thinking immediately. That's like when Mayberry dove for that one where he thought he was Superman and could catch a ball that was like 3 feet away. That's what that reminded me of. And tonight was just a microcosm of that play other than our offense. Everything was just a crapshoot other than our offense.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And like you mentioned, at least hockey playoffs are around the corner and we can have the Flyers tomorrow night to hopefully cheer us up. But first, before we start with tonight's mess, I do want to touch on yesterday's game, because obviously we didn't get to break that down yet after Sunday's episode. So let's just start with that. Phillies win 13-8. What looked like it was going to be a great game, 13-1 going into the ninth inning. I mean, I wish I was lying, but you ended up warming up your closer in Neris in the ninth inning because it got so dicey. But I mean, let's start with the positives because obviously we're all aware of the negatives. Biscuit, we're going to start with you. Out of that game yesterday, obviously the long balls were good to see, as that's something it seems like we haven't really seen too much of so far. But what was your overall takeaway from the offense in that Monday's game? And if you want to touch on tonight as well, because overall the offense played well, scoring 9 runs. Like, what are your takeaways from these 2 games in terms of the offense?
It's plain and simple. The takeaway is that the offense is not going to be the problem with this Phillies team. The offense is going to be able to put up runs, and they should be able to do it consistently. And I think after a really crappy showing with the doubleheaders, the last game of the Braves series, the offense was so pitiful. It was really nice to see the last 2 nights that the bats really did come alive. And spilling over into tonight, it was really good just to see them keep battling. I remember I mentioned this to my girlfriend really right before she fell asleep once the game, became the game that we watched for like the last hour or so. But I said to her, it feels like it's been so long since they really had a nice come from behind, comeback more or less. And it really felt like it was going to happen there. The momentum was there. And, I want to stick with the positive here, but it's really hard to do that. Even in last night's victory, to sit here and talk about the positives when watching this fucking bullpen, excuse my language, is just so it's unbearable. There aren't words anymore. It's just pitiful. It's disgusting. It's unfair. It's unfair to the people that are trying to compete. It's unfair to the fans who want a winning product on the field. Like I said, like it kills me because I think given last year the offense being, kind of inconsistent, they would have their nights when they were hot, but overall I think it was a pretty mediocre offense. It kills me to see this team putting up runs and it just getting squandered by this ungodly excuse for a pitching staff. So it's great to see the bats come alive, but like it shows tonight, it won't mean anything unless this pitching really comes around.
See, and you bring up a great point with the pitching and everything. And like one thing that bothered me with the last game against the Braves is like even though you put up 13 runs and you're up 13-1, the way that bullpen came in the ninth inning, it didn't feel like I don't know about you guys, but to me it didn't feel like a win after the game. It was more like I can't believe it got so close that we actually had to warm up Hector Neris in the ninth inning. It turned into I don't want to say an overall nerve-wracking point because I don't think it ever got to that point because you're still at 5 runs. But like the bullpen just finds a way to take over every game, and at this point, it's just like I'm tired of looking at it like that. But it's the only way to look at this team right now. But I'm gonna go to you for this next question, Borek. But sticking with the offense, Hoskins goes 2 for 6 tonight. Last night, Hoskins goes 1 for 3. Obviously, he's been a hot name in the guys that
Before we go to the offense, can I say something, though? Because it's hard to stick to the offense when you have Nick Pivetta, who's now gone, who struggled in yesterday's game, and Trevor Kelly, who's now gone. So as Instinct said, bye, bye, bye. Let's get the hell out of here, you two. So.
yeah, we'll get to them here in a minute.
Don't need them, don't want them.
But, no, yeah, I think going back to the point, you had the two guys struggling here in Hoskins and Segura, and obviously we'll get into his play tonight. But overall, the offense, you have Segura hit a home run last night. You have him hit another one tonight. Tonight he gets another hit, same as last night. Again, Hoskins with a couple hits these last few games. Do you see their game overall offensively kind of taking a turn here for the better? Or do you think it's just a small little stretch that's going to go back to what they've been doing before?
With Gene, it's going to be interesting because he went the other way for a home run, obviously. Then he pulled a home run today. And he was, I believe he had one hit. Yeah, he had one hit on the day, which was the homer. It's going to be interesting if that gets him in sync or if that keeps him what we've been talking about before, kind of homer still swinging big because now he has a couple homers. So it's going to be interesting if he adjusts and kind of says, let me stay within myself because that's how I get those line drives, or if because he hit the homers, he starts feeling good about himself and then overswing. Where Hoskins has put better swings on the ball, he had the 2 hits today. He just looked annoying as hell to watch in that last at-bat. And then Kutch also got the 1 hit, so he looks a little bit better. But, I mean, you just need consistency. If Hoskins continues to get 2 hits per game, that would help because Harper looks like he's the past couple games he's been very consistent. He's now up to 324. And Real Muto struggled this game but has been hitting good as a whole. So, I mean, you just need some consistency. This is the first game that Diddy actually struggled. He had 3 strikeouts. So our offense still scored 9 runs. So that kind of goes along with what Biscuit's saying. The offense isn't going to be a problem when Diddy and Real Muto, who were your 2 biggest catalysts, didn't do a damn thing. And you still scored 9 runs when they struggled today. The issue is always and forever will be the bullpen, it seems, with this Phillies team. So our offense, yeah, except for Scott Kingery, who I love, but this dude needs to figure out how to hit the damn baseball this year. Like, this is getting annoying to watch at the plate. Give him a day off. Roman Quinn started hitting, but get him the hell out of center field and figure something out there if you want to keep him in the lineup because he's not a good fielder. So figure something out there. But keep him in the lineup because he's hitting, I guess. Now he brought his average up to 280 now. So you might want to keep him in for that. But other than that, you need Hazley in the lineup. He's going to add more to your overall lineup and limiting your runs. So, yeah, that's what I say. Our hitting's fine, but it's not going to do much because look what happened tonight.
Yeah, no, again, so yesterday in the Braves game, before we move on from that, you had Harper have 3 RBIs, Real Muto had 3 RBIs, Gregorius had 4, and Segura had 1, and then Quinn had 1 as well to give you that great offensive game. But you can't miss the factor on the guy who started that game. That's Aaron Nola. I mean, we've talked about him in previous episodes about what we think about his season and how much he struggled last year and how much better he looked. So Biscuit, I'll go back to you on this one. So let me give you his line real quick. 8 innings pitched, only 2 hits given up, 1 run, 1 walk, and then 10 strikeouts on the night. An ERA of 2.79 on the year now. What are you seeing in Aaron Nola? I mean, after that start yesterday.
I think he's going back to it. I think he's going back to 2018 Aaron Nola, and I couldn't be more happier. Look, um, going back to the Yankees series, let's go back to the first start of the season against Miami. He looked really sharp throughout the first. It was like, 5 innings of the game, and I believe it was that 6th inning he ran into a little bit of trouble, and that's when he ultimately got pulled out of the game. You look back on that start, and you kind of see those problems that kind of lingered throughout the 2019 season in that first start, and you're starting to think, this is not what you want to see. Not that Nola was absolutely horrible last season, but he was not 2018 Nola, where I believe he finished second or third in Cy Young voting when he was, phenomenal. There aren't words to really describe how great he was in 2018, but to see what he's done the last 2 starts against the Yankees and the Braves, it's insanely encouraging. It makes me feel that even with all the questions coming into the season about the starting pitching, that it seems like that's something that's going to at least be suitable as well. So it's really encouraging to see. You want to see him keep it up. That's the most important thing. You want to see us pick up more Nola wins. It's almost been like a full calendar year since we won a Nola start, so that's really that's got to change. That's actually really horrible. But it's been encouraging to see. I will say this too, though, that he pitched so wonderfully last night against the Braves, but it's just so overshadowed by everything we've talked about so far with this horrible bullpen and how they literally almost blew the game. And it's another thing that I think about when you just think about how crappy this bullpen is. It really takes away from everything else being, enjoyable about this team at this point, because it feels like any time the bullpen's in the game, it's an automatic loss. And that takes away from the offense having a good night. It takes away from the starting pitcher having a good night. As great as everything's been on the starting pitching side and the offensive side, I think so far this season, none of it's going to matter because this bullpen just sucks the life out of everything else that you don't even want to think about the positives
For
anymore.
sure.
And it's one of those things that you don't want it to be that way, but it's just so damn awful. There's no other way to, you shouldn't let it take away from the positives, but it has to because it's such a huge-ass negative.
Yeah. No, I mean, Brogdon, thank God's up. Blake Parker's Blake Parker, so you'll see what the hell you get from him. But Connor Brogdon seems like a decent cross. So thank God Trevor Kelly, who's not a major league pitcher, and Nick Pivetta, who's proven he's not a major league pitcher now time and time again, is gone. So hopefully those Connor Brogdon can step up and Matt Glentak gets his head out of his rear end and eventually signs Brandon Morrow and looks at some teams that are 2 and whatever, 4 and whatever, and tries to trade for some of their decent relievers.
Yeah, and so for those who don't know, what Borek's talking about here is, and what Biscuit was talking about after the Nola start yesterday, Nick Pivetta came in and got 1 out and gave up 6 runs, and then Trevor Kelly came in and gave up, and Trevor Kelly gave up 1 run, and so Pivetta after last night had a 15.88 ERA, and Kelly had a 10.8 ERA. So today the Phillies made 5 moves in total, and that is contract selected in Blake Parker, contract selected in Connor Brogdon, designated to Lehigh Valley Nick Pivetta, or optioned to Lehigh Valley Nick Pivetta, designated for assignment Trevor Kelly, and designated for assignment Nick Williams. So I don't know if you guys picked up on this, but 3 guys were optioned / designated for assignment, and only 2 were picked up. So to me, it's officially means Spencer Howard is on the team for good, because that means they get to keep 1 more guy. So they haven't announced starters yet, but hopefully this means Vince to the bullpen and Spencer Howard's going to be the starter here. But anyway, you're trying to get the bullpen help. You're bringing in 2 guys. You're getting 2 question marks here. You can't call any of them for sure players. And obviously, if you move Vince to the bullpen, that's 3 question marks here. So it's not like Matt Klentak's making any big moves to help this team, but it's making moves to try to figure it out. Let's face it, this Phillies team is in desperation mode. It's very sad to call it after, what is it now? 12 games into the season, 5-7 record. But it's what it is now. And you guys mentioned it, how frustrating it is, because that's all it is at this point. The bullpen just has taken over every game, it seems like, because no matter what the lead is, you can't feel comfortable with it. You look at the 11-3 Yankees game. You had to warm up and bring Hector Neris in because of one inning imploded because of the bullpen. And then you had last night, again, the 12-1 game, or 13-1 game, and you had to warm him up. And then even tonight, you get Zach Wheeler on the mound. Yes, he doesn't give you his best stuff, but guess what? He leaves the game, gives up 3 runs. You're in a position to win it still. But you turn to who else but Tommy Hunter. He's expected to be one of your go-to guys this year. He gives up another 2 runs. So now he's got an ERA of 8.31. Then you turn to Hector Neris, and I get it. And we'll dive into that play in a little bit here. And I get it. A misread ball leads to Hector Neris 3 runs. But before that misplay ball, Hector Neris still blew the save. So not good there. Obviously, he was going to be reliable. And then, for whatever reason, Joe Girardi turns to Guerrero again instead of Rosso. For whatever reason. And we all know which ones look better of the two. But in this high-pressure situation, he goes to Guerrero, and he would have given up the single there, and it would have gave up the run. Obviously, another misplay ball leads to the inside the park home run. But it is what it is. Like, the run still would have scored, and they continued. And it's a shame because you can't really rip on Girardi because he's just going to what he has now. And to me, it all falls back on the front office. You knew what you were getting into. You knew the spot here. You knew the importance of the relievers in this kind of year, and they just didn't do anything to fix it. And it's very frustrating. You guys are frustrated. I'm frustrated with it. I mean, we're in desperation mode, but there's nobody to turn to in a year like this. So I don't know. Do any of you guys have any answers for it?
Yeah,
No.
I've said it multiple times. He's been in the free agency with Matt Glenn. I might just start going to the stadium and joining those people and yelling from outside, sign Brandon Morrow. Because
But
it's
that's-
better than anybody in our bullpen.
It's just, look, one guy.
He's not going to be a fix-all, but we don't have a fix-all at this point.
Exactly, and with more teams in a position to be contenders this year more than ever before due to the shortened season, like, you don't know what the trade market's even going to look like, if there really is hardly any. It just seems like we're at the point now where I just have this funny feeling that we're kind of doomed and going to fail on this one, because I really don't see the way you can, in this type of season, transform what needs to be an entire transformation of an entire bullpen. And it's just getting to the point now where you do this thing when you're getting late into a 162-game season, when you start, counting down the losses and, like, thinking, like, this could have been a win if this was different. And it feels like you're doing that kind of number game with all of these games early now because it's a shortened season. And when we get to, 25, 30 losses come the end of this season, if not more, like, we're going to, like, look back and think of, like, how many more games we could have won if the bullpen didn't, blow it. And it's just, it's so infuriating. And I don't have an answer. I disagree with you. I don't really think it's Brandon Morrow. I don't really know
Well, I
what
don't think he's a complete answer. He's just a good bullpen piece. He's going to help your bullpen. There's no argument with he's going to help this bullpen.
Well, I mean, that's not saying much. Like, let's face it. He
only had one off year because of injury, and everybody's making the guy seem like he's done. Even though
he's in his, like,
but
he's
guys
in
have
his
signed.
30s.
People signed Fernando Rodney. The dude sucked for 4 years. He's 43 years old. He hasn't been good since he was 38. So
my question, my question to you is this: How many more guys do you want to go down the road of signing potential veterans that just get hurt all the time?
Well,
Like
what other choice do you have?
that's
You have a doofus running our organization.
But that's been the choice we've been doing for the last 5 years. That's all we've been doing. That's been Tommy Hunter. That's been David Robertson.
I understand that, but we don't have another decision because Matt Glenn.
So why go down the same path? It's going to lead down to the same answer of just frustration. I'd rather just try the young guys in the system and just see what you have in them. Like that, at this point, I'm tired of signing. But to me, there's no point of signing all these injury-prone guys now at this point. Like you tried it with Bud Norris, he couldn't even win a roster spot. You tried it with Drew Storen, he couldn't win a roster spot. So, like, to me, that's all Brandon Morrow might be, is another one of those guys. And, like, I'm tired of this frustration of going down the road of signing all those kind of guys, because at this point, it's clearly it doesn't work because we have a GM that doesn't know how to find the right guy in the system.
Yeah, but we also have a system that doesn't know how to coach pitching. So they don't know how to coach relievers worth a lick. So coming up through the system,
but I disagree. All season was we heard how good of a pitching coach Price is, so let's give it a shot.
No, I'm talking about down in the system. Like, you're not getting coached by Brian Price your past years when you were being coached with the Iron Pigs and all. Like, everybody that seems to come up, it's like, oh, they have the best stuff, but then they have no control. So I'm hoping they didn't destroy Connor Brogdon's control because he has good stuff. Then maybe he can be something for us.
I just don't see a situation where, like I said, I'll put it to you this way. If the option was on the table to bring in a guy like Brandon Morrow, I'll put it to you there, Borek. I jump on it just because you do need like a little more consistency. And I think another veteran presence, not that really Hector Neris is like a veteran arm, but like maybe like someone like Tommy Hunter-esque, not someone who performs at the level Tommy Hunter is currently performing, because that is not what we need, but like another veteran reliever who can maybe, just provide some stability. Maybe that could be it. But at the same time, Andrew, you're right. We went down this road like how many times now since like the 2018 season, like the names like Pat Neshek, Tommy Hunter, Dave Robertson, like it just seems like it's a move that's always doomed to fail for us, because it has been a doomed to fail move. It's never worked out for us.
You're right, but so is trying most of our pitchers. Luis Garcia sucks. Antonio Bastardo, when we brought in, ended up sucking after a while. Edgar Garcia is a disgrace of a pitcher. Enlo de los Santos did not pan out when people thought he would actually be good. Alfredo Gonzalez, rest in peace, but he was not good while I was here. We thought he would be amazing. So, like, our pitching, other than starting pitching, we developed some good ones. Relievers, no. It hasn't been since our teams that went on a run, really, for the most part, other than, like, Hector, who we had, who's developed, but now looks like he's struggling this season, so he needs to get that back. I mean, I don't have much confidence in either way. We just suck at getting relievers in this organization, and it's been for the last decade. So,
I did want to ask you guys, this was something that was floated out in the Phillies Twitter sphere the other day, and I'm just curious to see what you guys think. I'll be honest, bringing this up, I'm not the most privy to this idea, but I don't think I'd be totally opposed. What do you guys think about the idea of Spencer Howard starting and maybe just going this season in the pen and being that kind of reliever that might piggyback off of a few guys, depending if they don't, get through a full 6 or 7 innings, maybe if they're out after 4 or 5, Spencer Howard taking the reins for like the next 2 or 3 innings or so. Given how the rotation has performed so far, and even though I think out of all of them, the weakest link is probably still Vince Velasquez, and that's probably the guy Howard would be piggybacking the most off of if he does kind of go into that role. But, with how this bullpen is, and having a guy like Spencer Howard who could come in after the 4th or 5th inning and maybe get you those 2 or 3 innings into the 6th, 7th, or maybe even 8th inning of the ballgame, that could be a weapon. That could be a weapon here. And I think it's something that could really bode well for the Phillies' favor if they do decide to do it. I'm really curious to see what you guys think about that.
So, for me personally, I don't want to see that. And it's because of the system we have in place. If it was, say, 12, 13 years ago with the coaching staff we had back then, I might be more for it. Because obviously we saw a guy like Brett Myers bounce back and forth. But, I mean, recently, with the upside Spencer Howard brings, I just want to see them leave him as a starter, let him get comfortable there and work there from the start and not ruin his career. We've seen so many guys in these recent years with this Phillies system bounce back and forth from the Adam Morgan who started as a starter. And I know Howard's got a lot more potential, so it could be different the way he handles it, but I just don't want to see him ruin a guy's career because of a switch like that. Just after seeing Adam Morgan, seeing a guy like Ranger Suarez, I just feel like, and then potentially, obviously, Nick Pavetta's bounced back and forth now. Vince threw a little bit in the pen last year. We just had so many guys. We try to transition to the pen and starter back and forth, and even positions. Like we saw Cody Ashley get moved to left field. We saw Rhys Hoskins get to left field. I mean, we see Roman Quinn bounce from second base to center field. I mean, to me, I don't know why, but this Phillies system just loves moving everybody around, and I feel like that's partially why these guys, I mean, obviously not the whole thing, but it's partially why these guys fall apart, because they never can get in a rhythm or get comfortable at spots, and just the lack of success we've seen in the last few years from the Phillies system. It's worked for other teams, but just from the Phillies system, I don't want to see them accidentally ruin Howard's career.
Well, you said it, people playing out of position, and I think that's a great segue into what we saw tonight with the Phillies defense and Gene Segura, really.
Sure.
I think one of the
But-
reasons that play happens is because Gene Segura is not a third baseman and doesn't really know what is his ball. Like,
Yeah, Reese should have called.
yes,
His
Reese
side.
should have caught it, but at the same time, I think when you have all four running in like that, you could clearly see everyone in your peripherals. Like I said, it was just boneheaded, and Reese didn't get the. I'll put it to you this way. I will say this, not really to defend Gene because I think that's really on him there too. But Reese should have called that ball and did not get any flack for it.
So first off, for those who don't know, who didn't get to see the game, and they're going off this, in a situation where after Hector Neris blows the save, it's all tied up. There's so many scoring at the end that I forget what the exact score was. I think it was 6-6 was the score in that ninth inning at that point, and bases were loaded, and it's just a routine fly ball in the infield. The ball's on the left side of or if you're at the plate, it's on the right side of the mound where it's the clear first baseman's ball. Hoskins was originally lined up underneath the ball, and all of a sudden Segura comes running over from third, calls Hoskins off. Hoskins backs out of the way because he was caught off, and Segura completely misses the ball. 2-run score on the play. Phillies now going to the ninth, down 8-6. So my take on that, and what I saw some reporters from Jim Salisbury, Todd Zalecki, a couple guys, they actually said Hoskins originally called that ball off, but because Segura ran in and called him off, it's the way it usually works is that last guy that calls the ball is the one that's going to get it. So Hoskins did call the ball, they said. It's not like he didn't. They said he did call it off, and they could hear him from the press box, but Segura had the last call, which made Hoskins back off, obviously, to try to avoid the collision, and Segura just obviously missed the ball at that point. So, to your point, yeah, Segura moves to third base. He tries to do too much in that situation. Let Hoskins catch the ball. It's the first baseman's ball. It's there on the side, and I'd even go far as to say
He was there.
Let JT catch that before Segura. Like that's a first baseman catcher's ball. Segura has no business going across the diamond and catching that ball on that side of the pitcher's mound.
No,
I mean,
never.
Reese was there. Reese was in the spot too. You watch him literally get to the spot where the ball will eventually drop, and then makes the way for Gene to come through and ultimately drop the ball.
Yeah, and like you said, JT could have easily caught it. That's never good. That never should be a ball that you are never taught. The first cardinal sin you're taught while playing third, because I played it a lot growing up, is never run across the mound. If there's a pop up in the infield, never as a third baseman run across the mound to catch it, or you're an idiot. Actually, my one coach said that, actually. He literally said, you're an idiot if you run across the mound to catch the ball as a third baseman. So there you go, Gene Segura. Welcome to the idiot club.
and to your point, Borek, I forgot to mention this, that's what happened. Segura kind of trips over the mound because of the height difference, which kind of throws him off balance there, which causes him to miss it. So to your point, that's why you never want to go across the mound. It's not like you're running through grass. You're running through different heights of the field, and that's why you trip there. And I don't care whether you move positions or not. I'm not going to blame it on that. You should know that. Like, you should know. Like, that'd be like him being at second base and running over and stealing the shortstop. Besides the fact, if you hear somebody else call it, you learn that in Little League. If someone else is calling the ball, let him catch the ball. Like, and that just makes it so frustrating, too, is because on top of the bullpen struggles, how many times have we seen fielding cost us runs? I mean, you saw different plays. They missed double play opportunities, and it leads to a home run. The game the other day against the Braves, I can't remember which it was. Gregorius kind of backtracked on a ball on a bouncer where he couldn't double off the guy, and it led to a two-run home run. And it's those little things that cost this team. And no offense, but this team isn't good enough to afford those errors. You can't give these teams extra outs. The more you give them extra outs, the more you're going to lose games, and it shows it tonight against I don't know how much longer we call it. I mean, they're on paper, they're not a good team in Baltimore, but now they have a winning record. They've swept some good teams. So I guess you got to respect them a little bit more now. But, I mean, let's be real. On paper, this team should not even come close to losing a game like that. But, and go ahead, Biscuit.
I agree. You said it, Andrew. Like, yeah, this team's had some success to start the season, but this is one of those this is one of those series you need to win 2 or 3. No more it's not cute anymore. They need to beat up on the bad teams. They can play 500 against the Yankees. They can play 500 against the Braves. That's fine. I look back on those two series, and I there were some rough games and there were some boneheaded moments in those games. But if we're gonna play 500 against the really good teams, yes, that's a win in my book. These are the teams. It's the Marlins. It's the Blue Jays. It's the oh my God, Orioles. Long day, everyone. But these are the teams you need to beat in order to make it into October. And we're just not going to do that. It doesn't matter how good we play against the good teams when we can't even put a decent showing against the team that we should beat. For God's sakes, we had a lead 2 times in this game. The second time, it's just embarrassing. You can't even turn to your closer at this point. And you know what? Hector Neris was due for a rough outing. He's been great dating back to last season. He's a heck of a reliever. And I still have faith in Hector Neris. But this is one of those nights it needs to get done. And it's a shame that he couldn't do it. Because at this point, you really can't. You can't throw diddly squat out of that bullpen and make someone feel good about it. You just can't.
No, you're completely right.
Yeah. And before you make your point, Borek, go quick. I didn't get to give the breakdown of the game. I'll let you make your point here after I do that. So to Biscuit's point about the amount of times we took the lead, you had the Phillies in the third get 2 runs, take a 2-0 lead. They added 1 in the third or 1 in the fifth to go up 3-0. Once again, you see the failed shutdown inning after going up 3-0. Baltimore responds with 3 to even the game. In the 7th, Baltimore adds 2 more to take a 5-3 lead. Phillies answer in the bottom of the 8th with 3 runs off a Bryce Harper home run and then a Gene Segura home run, and it looked all fine and dandy there until Hector Neris came into the game. You give up 3 runs in the 9th to go down a score of 8-6, as I mentioned. But then guess what? This offense did what they had to do. They tied the game, send it into extra innings, 8-8. But the bullpen once again fails, and we'll get into this play in a little bit. Make it 10-8. We get their guy that starts on second in to make it 10-9, and then we lose 10-9. I forget what I was going to say after that. Like Biscuit said, it's been a long night. So, Borek, why don't you make your point here real quick on what you were going to say there now that they know what we're talking about and the amount of real quick. What I was going to say is Phillies did something which is really hard to do. They scored in the 8th inning, they scored in the 9th inning, and they scored in the 10th inning, and they still lost this game. That shows you how bad of a night it was for the Phillies. Borek, what were you going to say? Sorry.
And their bullpen. Yeah. No. I also wanted to correct myself on something I said earlier. Didi had that 1 hit that he, of course, got the 2 RBIs late in the game. That was his 1 hit on the day. So, yeah, this was one of those games that Biscuit kind of summed it up perfectly earlier. You just can't enjoy. Well, we lost, first of all, so you're never going to enjoy it. But even if we won, this would be a game that would be just like the last one. If we won 10-9, it would have been like our bullpen still sucks, but we won. We got the offense and we won. Like, you still would have been trying to get over the fact that your bullpen sucks to explain you won the game. So, like, either way, I feel like no matter if we win and lose games, it's always going to be this bullpen stinks. We need to do something like they won the game yesterday in the post game immediately. I don't know who watched it, but Ricky Bowe, they started immediately talking about the bullpen. It was like they lost the game. It wasn't like they won the game at all in yesterday's game. And it would have been the same if we won this game. This one we, of course, lost because Kutch was able to have 1 good AB. Beyond that, he looked a little shaky still. Hoskins has looked better at the plate other than his last at-bat that he looked off, but I mean, again, you're in a pressure situation there. Harper has looked really good lately, and then JT wasn't a big factor in today's game, did he? And then, as we said, Mean Gene, at least at the plate, looks a little bit mean now. At the field, he looks very, very bad. So maybe we should DH him someday and figure out someone else to put at third base, Alec Boehm. So we need to figure something out. I mean, this team's pissing me off. I mean, I love how our offense is doing. I love how my man Adam Hazley was able to score a run when he came in. He wasn't able to get a hit today, but it's okay. He's still hitting .333. He'll get over it. He'll bounce back next game. And Gosselin got a hit when he came in. So, I got over it pretty quickly for Adam Hazley not getting a hit. So at least that's positive. So, the offense is positive. Those 2 guys still look good at the dish even when they get out. Kingery really needs to get going, and others are hitting. So the offense ain't the problem. We just hopefully have Connor Brogdon play a lot better than we think he is. Like, we think he's a good, maybe a decent, solid reliever. He has to pitch like he's coming up hot as a firecracker, kind of like how when we all fell in love with Hector years ago because he looked good when he first came up.
Yeah, and to your point, yeah, JT didn't have the best night at the plate tonight. He did walk twice, but I will say he found a way to get it done on the defensive end.
Oh,
I mean,
for sure.
That play, I forget the guy's name on Baltimore. He tried to steal home. That play, to jump up like that, come down and tag him and save that run. Fantastic job there by JT. But yeah, great job there to at least make your impact defensively. To still get his name in there.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's one of those plays you never understand how the guy throws it so far off when you throw it right back to the pitcher. He's only a few feet away. I think it's like one of those plays you practice, those like relay throws where you're just like, and then you just zip it right back to him. Everybody all like, but it is a lefty. A lefty throwing it is a lot weirder for a righty. A righty could have just went. A lefty has to come over and throw it back to the catcher.
And you got to thank JT's athleticism there because Alvarez was completely caught off guard.
Yeah.
And if it were any other catcher in baseball, honestly, I don't think that's that's a steal of home. That's a steal of home right there because most people just aren't JT Realmuto, and that's one of those
freaking out because we thought it was a steal at home, and then
it did not look good. It did not look good, and it was another one of those moments too where you really thought to yourself, man, it couldn't get worse, but just you wait, because that's before the game really got out of hand and we saw the rest of that nightmare. But like I said, JT, the bat's good, the bat's solid, but I think where he really excels is that defense, and the amount of effort that he puts in and just how talented he is, he must really work hard for that craft because he is splendid behind the dish and as a defensive player. And I think that's really almost more so than his offense. Like JT, when he's swinging the bat, it's great to watch, but I clamor more at JT when he's making those star defensive plays, throwing out runners when he's got the, strike out at home, throw to second base, double play. That's almost the more exciting thing to watch with JT for me. So if we want to talk positives for a brief second, that was another great highlight from tonight was watching him make that defensive play.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And I got something on JT that I'll say before you give your final thoughts tonight, Biscuit. So I'll save that for later. But I don't know if you guys have anything else on these two games before I give you my last point. Before we move on.
Okay, I was just going to say for us to stay on some positives for a bit. Bruce continues to look good. He had a 3-run homer. I think it was 457, some ridiculous distance he hit it today when they did the StatCast. So that's beautiful to see. This guy has looked good when healthy since coming here. So that's a guy that I love to keep seeing do his thing. And then obviously Harper, like I said. So two positives there. Bryce is sitting hot as a firecracker right now. Jay's staying hot. And Hazley, even though he didn't have the most productive at-bats today result-wise, he actually looks good when he gets out, unlike someone like Kingery, who actually looks like he's, in words of Kevin Millar, struggle bunnying at the plate. So.
Yeah, you mentioned Bryce Harper. He moves his average up to 324 now. He's got 4 home runs, 10 RBIs. So, yeah, great start for him. Jay Bruce, 3 for 5 on the day tonight, including a RBI single in that 10th inning, triple in, I believe it's the 8th or 9th inning, and then, as you mentioned, the long home run. So Bruce continues to look good. Yeah, and Hazley, he didn't get the hit tonight, but he did things otherwise on different notes there. Phil Gosselin comes in with a pitch hit single to keep that game going. So it continued to get hits, and you really wonder, with the defensive struggles, I know Gosselin isn't the best defender, but at this point, keep the bat in there, I guess. And at this point, with how hot Gosselin and Bruce are, you're in a situation where obviously you can't put them both at DH. So you got to start sacrificing other people's positions because, I mean, again, I don't want to – it feels weird to panic 12 games in, but in 60 games, you can't afford to give up too many more games here and there. So you got to do what it takes to put these guys in. And I don't know what it's going to have to do for Gosselin to get everyday innings. I get it. I know it's going to probably wear out at some point. But at some point, you just got to ride it until it doesn't work anymore. And, I mean, after tonight, we didn't even talk about it yet, but the Roman Quinn play. I mean, so the 10th inning, first batter, runner starts on second. It's a line drive to center. I mean, everyone knew it was dropping. Everybody knew it was going to drop in. Everyone was thinking, okay, base hit, you reset.
Well,
with
not
the guy
everyone.
You reset with the guy. You reset with the guy on first, and you move on from there. But instead, was it the second time in 3 games, Quinn tries to make a diving, saving catch. This time he wasn't fortunate enough for it to bounce off his hand and to keep it in front of him. But it gets by him, and it leads to an inside the park home run. Which, don't get me wrong, it's 1,000% Quinn's fault. But I don't know if you guys noticed, I can't leave out Kingery missing that ball. Because if Kingery catches that ball on the relay throw, that guy's either has a good chance of being thrown out at the plate or that guy's staying at third. So I can't let that pass too much.
Maybe. Austin Hayes does
It's
fly, though, and he fell on his ass, so that delayed the throw coming in from the outfield. Because Quinn slipped on his ass and threw it from his. He literally threw it from the ground.
I'd have to go back and watch it. I don't know how close Kingery would have been able to make that play.
And Kingery doesn't have great transition throws. That's the other reason why I'm not sure if that would have done much.
Yeah, but I don't think that guy's going home until he drops that ball.
No, he went home. They talked about it on the broadcast. He went home. They waved him home as soon as Quinn slipped. Not when the throw came in. As soon as he fell on his ass, the third base coach went like this.
I have to go back and look at it. But
yeah, it's one of those.
That's what T-Mac said.
It was honestly, that was the backbreaker for me. So that's like the last thing I want to watch tonight. But
yeah, I'm not gonna. Yeah, I'm definitely not going back and watching that.
Well, I mean, while we're on Kingery though, I just don't think, and the guy's got a lot going on. Had the really bad case of COVID, has lingering health issues that he's been talking about. I just don't think, I love Scott Kingery. I think the guy's got a great baseball attitude. I think he could be a real dynamic player if he puts his full talent on display. He's one of those guys you want to see succeed. He just should not have a spot in the lineup right now, though. And not even he just looks off in every aspect of the game. Not that he's been necessarily poor defensively, but he just doesn't look like he's in it. And especially at the plate, he's not even catching up to meatballs down the plate. It's embarrassing, and it's really tough to see this happen to him. But I don't have words for it. It's just really tough to watch.
I agree with you. It's a shame, and I think it's time to give him. It's going to take more than a days off now. Give him some time off, whether it's just put Gosselin at third, move Segura to second, keep Segura at third, put Gosselin at third or at second, or maybe for whatever reason it seems like they don't want to call up Alec Boehm yet. For whatever reason, it seems like they're hesitant. I don't know. I mean, they get to look at him. I feel like it's been really weird. He's been very quiet since the season started, so I really don't know how he's looked. But for whatever reason, it doesn't seem like he's coming up anytime soon. I hope they prove me wrong and call him up in these next coming hours or days or whatever. But, yeah, I think at this point, you got to give him time off, put Gosselin in the lineup. He's really hot. Let Hazley take over center field from now and get the hot bats in there. And start Hazley in center, get Gosselin at second or third, and put Bruce at DH. And just let those guys ride out the hot hands until it starts to die off. Because at this point, you're not missing anything in the field-wise. But yeah, the last thing I'll leave you with.
If you ask Sean, he would say you should take Kutch out and put Bruce in left field and put Knapp at DH. So,
But yeah, I'll leave you with this. I'm not gonna go over names again. But after tonight, these are your. This is your bullpen right now. 18 ERA, 16.88, 15.88, 10.80, 10.80, 9.00, 8.31, and 8.10 for a total of a 10.99 ERA through the first 12 games. I can't tell you if that's the worst ever, but it's got to be up there for the worst start. That's where we'll leave the bullpen at now. Matt Klentak.
A bunch of Antonio Bastardos.
We're desperate for help. Please find a way to get it. At this point, give me Antonio Bastardo back because you can't get any worse. Borek knows how much I did not like that guy. But yeah, anyway, we're gonna finish up talking about these last 2 games here. So I'll transition. First off, don't forget to go out, check out Just Food, especially after a game like that. We all need to pick up food here because we need something to cheer about. So go get something that tastes good. Check out Just Food sandwiches there. Their number is 215-794-FOOD or 215-794-3663. Visit our guy Asian Rob. try out the Chef's Choice. You're not going to be disappointed. Check out anything else. They have everything from veggie wraps, veggie sandwiches to anything you really want meat-wise. A lot of good different options there. So go check them out because I don't know about you guys, but after a loss like that, I always need food to cheer me up. And, I mean, give me a sandwich. I love sandwiches, so definitely check out Just Food. But, yeah, with those very disappointing games, obviously, I think it's time to let's try to pick ourselves up and find somewhat positivity and some way of being optimistic for these next two games here. And that's where we're going next. We got two games before our Thursday show. That'll be Wednesday and Thursday, both against Baltimore again. As Biscuit mentioned, you got to take advantage of these bad teams. If you're going to play 500 ball against the really good teams, you're going to have to win series against the bad one. Tomorrow night, we're going to go at 7:05 Eastern. Philly's got Zach Eflin coming out. Still's got that 0 ERA on the season. Doesn't matter how many starts he's had yet. Mm-hmm. All that matters is 0-0. The Orioles got Wade LeBlanc on the mound. He struggled early on, 3 games, 6.91 ERA, 1-0 is his record. Hey, it's another lefty starter. It's a lefty starter for Baltimore. I'll start with you, Borek. Do you find any way that Girardi gives Hazley, gives Bruce the start, or do you think it's going to go back to the way he's been going, and you're going to see Quinn in center even with the mistakes he made, and you're going to obviously know he's going to have this issue, but you'll see Gosselin at DH. Do you see any way Bruce or Hazley's in the lineup tomorrow?
Well, Bruce was in the lineup against one lefty in Newcomb, but I heard that was because of the way he delivers the ball over the top to lefties, and his splits are pretty much bad against lefties as well, so that's a little bit different. I have to imagine Wade LeBlanc's splits ain't too sexy, though, with a 6.91 ERA, so I would have to think you can definitely put Adam Hazley and Jay Bruce in against him to get hits off of lefties, and that would be a good lefty to get. What are his splits?
His splits are versus right-handed hitters, he's got an 8.18 ERA versus left 2.70, so
never mind. He's actually pretty good.
Significantly better from the left side this year so far. His average against lefties is a .182. So, again, not bad. And then versus righties, 2.83. So he is significantly better against the left-handed side. Okay, so he actually
knows of a different. Okay, then at that point, I would put one of them in. So pick what hot hand. And I would have to say, well, you could DH Bruce. So actually, you could still put both of them in. But I think Hazley has to be in there for his fielding. If you don't want to put Bruce in for that reason, you can then just keep it Kutch. You would have Hazley, you would have Harper, and then your DH would be Hoskins, and you just wouldn't put Bruce in there tomorrow against the lefty. But I think one of them should be in there because you got to get the best fielder on the team in there in the outfield, which is Adam Hazley. So there's no business not to have him in center field. This dude's a guy that can hit and he can field. Like I said in a previous podcast, if he starts starting, he's probably going to win some Gold Gloves in center field because he's a better version of what Adam Eden is. He has more power than Adam Eden when he gets going, but he's a guy that can hit to all fields and is better at fielding than Adam Eden. So he's basically a better version of Adam Eden. Is what Hazy's going to be. And by better, I mean potentially like 1.5 times better. And I'm not going to go 2, but like 1.5 times better than that.
1.5 times better.
Yeah.
I love that. But no, if we get a better version of Adam Eaton, I'm fine with that. Adam Eaton's a pretty good player. I mean, or was. I don't know what he's doing this year, but I always respected his game. But I agree with you. I would like to see them both in the lineup, if I'm being honest. At this point, I mean, trust me, I like Quinn. I respect his game, and he's hitting, I think, 4 of 6 games or something like that. It's not bad overall. But let's face it, Hazley's playing a lot better than he is right now overall. Just keep him in the lineup. I mean, this guy's young enough, so you're never going to find out what he can do against lefties if you never play him.
Exactly.
So at some point, you got to give him the shot. You got to see what he has. And I think at this point, it's time to let it ride, see what he has. We already mentioned the Kingery struggles. You put Gosselin out there, and then you DH Bruce. So I really want to see Bruce and Hazley both in the lineup tomorrow, regardless of what side's which. Biscuit, I'll turn to you for the pitching. Obviously, Eflin faced a Yankees lineup, went through a lot of stress at that point in the game. Girardi took him out after 4 innings, gave up 0 runs, 4 hits, 5 strikeouts. He didn't look bad overall. I thought obviously missed some spots here and there, but overall he pitched well for the most part. What are you expecting out of Eflin tomorrow? You think he can? I mean, let's face it. Obviously, we'll see if he can go 9. It's what we all want him to at this point. But I mean, realistically, what are you seeing out of Eflin, and how many innings do you think he can give us?
His ceiling for tomorrow is probably, in my opinion, 6 innings, 2 runs, couple walks, 3 or 4 punch outs, nothing too sexy, but enough to get the job done. Low balling, it could be a rough one. It really could be a rough one. Zach's one of the real enigmas to me in this Phillies rotation, because I never know really what to think of him. I never really, I think when you look at guys like Nick Pivetta or Vince Velasquez, you can almost guarantee that they're going to suck. But I think there's something about Zach Eflin that he finds a way to get the job done sometimes. So I don't completely not have faith in Zach Eflin. But the bottom line is, take the pitching out of it. You now have 2 must-win games. You need to get to 500 before the Mets series. It's one of those things where you gotta at one point get ahead, and we've been behind playing catch up so far this entire season. I know we're only 12 games in, but we're really at this point now where we're not getting ahead. We're not making any progress. We're still trying to play catch up. And now is the time. You have this team in the Baltimore Orioles that are not a good team. You need to capitalize. And that is in all facets, starting pitching, offense, and the bullpen. It needs to get its act together here, because like I said, if you go into the Mets series and you're a game or 2 under 500, you're going to have to try to play catch up against a team that realistically could compete with you. I know they're not having the hottest start, but they're a team that can have success. They're not a poor team. It's one of those things that it just needs to get done now, and we really need to see the progress start translating onto the field. And that comes down to, I'll put it to you this way, I have more faith in Zach Eflin tomorrow than I do for any pitcher coming out of the Phillies bullpen.
Yeah, the big thing is, too, they have more righties than lefties that are going to kill you, and he struggled against lefties in his first start. They don't have a great lineup. Eflin, the only people he did bad against was lefties in his first start. You got Renato Nunez, you got Hayes, who hit it inside the Parker, and you got that other kid, what's his name? The guy that's really good at contact. I've Alberto. But they're all right-handed. So.
Well, another thing to bring up, too, is, like I said, all these good things about Eflin, and the fact that I do think there's, something with him that could be serviceable. But at the same time, it isn't going to matter if he can only go 4 innings and give up 80 pitches through 4 innings. You're asking the bullpen at that point to pitch the majority of the game after they've already been brutally bludgeoned tonight. It's almost just kind of setting up for this repetitive failure with the bullpen coming in at some point in this game and just absolutely shitting the bed. And we're at the point where, I get Girardi is trying to preserve starters' arms, but you gotta sit here and consider it now, Mr. Girardi. These relievers just ain't it. And I understand you want to preserve these starters, but you might have to. Who are you going to ask to put on the to put in the additional work? The bullpen that's been scuffling, or the rotation that's been good? I think you might need to start to lengthen the leash on some of the starters and let them go a little bit deeper into the game. Especially Aaron Nola, it was probably the right call the other night to pull him. It was getting late in the game. There have been a lot of bad pitchers, especially for starters. You don't want to see that happen, and I get that. But at the same time, I just thought it would have been such a good confidence booster for Nola. I think he had it within himself to get it done. So I understand the call. I don't necessarily agree with it. But like I said, it all just goes back to what happened at the end of that game. The bullpen blew chunks, and it almost cost us a game that should have easily been won, obviously. So it's one of those things that the bullpen is really what is going to hold us back if we don't win tonight's game or Thursday's game.
Yeah, I love that you brought that up, because I actually was going to ask that eventually. Tonight you saw, and I get it, he struggled when he pulled him. He was struggling when he pulled him in that 6th inning. But before the game, he comes out and says Wheeler was on a leash again, and he was only going to go 85 pitches. I think he finished with 87, obviously, to finish the batter. But he pulled him at the time he said he was going to pull him. And to your point, at what point do you start pushing these guys extra? Because like you said, first off, I understand taking Nola out. I know people wanted to see him get that first complete game. But here's the thing. If it's a 4-1 game, if it's a 3-1 game, Nola's going out there for the 9th inning. It's the fact that you're up 13-1. You have a 12-run lead. You expect that the bullpen can get 3 outs. You expect that to happen. So I have no issue with yesterday's game taking him out there. It's been a couple other decisions. But, yeah, I agree with you. At what point do you say, okay, enough's enough. We need to have these guys stretch out. And obviously Eflin had a slow start with his comeback trend, and obviously he's only had 1 start on the year. So, honestly, that's what worries me about tomorrow is I don't expect him to have a high leash. I expect him to be on a pitch count again, maybe 75 to 80 pitches, and he's only going to get through 5 or 6 innings on that. And we saw, go back to the fielding, we saw that last game with Eflin. Like, I forget who it was, makes the error, and it makes his pitch count implode that 1 inning, and that's why he only went 4 innings and gave up 0 runs. But, Biscuit, you had something to say.
Well, that's, looking back at some of the mystique that is Zach Eflin, he has been not really known, but he has from time to time been able to kind of have those complete games or shutouts where he's pitched less than 100 pitches in a full 9-inning game. And like it kind of just goes back to he's not really a flashy starter, but the guy does have something to offer in that regard, that he can come out and have those types of outings. So maybe given the fact that this Orioles lineup really isn't the, best thing since sliced bread on this planet, maybe he's able to kind of go out and throw that 6-7 of 1 or 2 run ball. I mean, it would be huge. I wouldn't be surprised if he didn't, but I also wouldn't be surprised if he did. And that's really all you can ask for at this point from the back end of this rotation is that, 3, maybe 4 runs at most or less and getting through the 5th or 6th inning. That's their ceiling. And if he's able to at least do that and the offense stays with it, you really can't, at the end of the day, be too mad because this guy isn't really supposed to be an ace. Like, he's a back-end starter, and you're getting that type of production from him. Like I said, it comes down to the other 2 things with this team producing.
No,
Yeah,
I agree.
exactly.
I agree with you completely.
I was going to say, though, I was in the middle of you, too, on Eflin, because I think he's a guy that just knows how to pitch, and he doesn't go out there and start guzzling the ball. We know he's a guy that got pitched at or pitching philosophy last year and then said, no, I'm just doing me, and then we saw him do well. So he just knows how to pitch. He's a guy that's what usually gets him into games with those limited pitches because he's not going to beat around the strike zone like guys like Velasquez and Pivetta. He's going to try to go at you. He doesn't have the best stuff, but he's going to challenge you. So he's a guy that hopefully because of that can get through 5. So I'm kind of between where both of you are at, and then maybe we'll get a great start like Biscuit. That would be praise the baseball gods for that if that happens because we do not need to see this bullpen. So.
No, I agree with you, and hopefully he can give us some innings. But we'll move on for our final game of the evening, and that's going to be Thursday's game, which is actually an afternoon game, 4:05 Eastern. It'll be Thursday afternoon, and I'll start with you, Borek. I know you've been talking about Arrieta a lot, and the pitching matchup on Thursday is going to be Jake Arrieta versus a former Phillies prospect and Tom Esselman. So we'll see what we get out of him or what we can do against him. He's got 2 starts on the year, 3.68 ERA. And then obviously Jake Arrieta, who's looked better than a lot of people expected early on here, 1-1 with a 2.45 ERA. So, Borek, what do you think? Are we going to get, obviously we can't get a shutout from him every time, but are we going to get like that Braves game, or do you think that was a 1-game thing and you'll get something in between that and something, say, last year?
I don't know if you're always going to get that dominant because that game looked a little bit flashback to before Jake came here with how his sinker was moving. But you're going to see a better version of Jake Arrieta, I believe. And the other thing with Eichelman is I think we win that matchup for sure because he struggles full-heartedly against lefties. So Bryce Harper's, like we just talked about, is killing it right now. Diddy's having a great season. Those 2 alone, if you get people on base for them, are probably going to feast off of Eichelman. And then Hazley needs to be in the line. If he's not in the lineup for that game, that's a disgrace. So he should feast off of Eichelman. But he should feast off of Eichelman. But I believe Arrieta is the much better. If we have the pitching matchup, because Arrieta is just looking good as a whole. on the season compared to Tom Eichelman. Arrieta actually, believe it or not, struggles a little bit more against righties to start the season. It's 259 to 231. So he's actually looking a little bit better against the lefties, which is for him usually harder to get out. So that even speaks volumes that he's looking good right now and hasn't even done what he usually does yet. So when he actually is looking good. So I think we have the better matchup. That'll put us over the edge in this game, and we'll get the win because of that combined with our offense, because I think Jake the Snake will get us through at least 6 innings again.
I hope you're right. Hopefully we get more than 6 innings. Can't ask 7. For too much. 7? All right, we used to say we can go to Alvarez and Neris, but after tonight, well, I don't know. I got faith in Neris. I think he can bounce back.
He'll be fine.
Hopefully it's just a one-game thing for Neris.
Well, Alvarez was okay. I thought Alvarez was our only pitcher that didn't give up. Well, he gave up inherited, though. So
no, Alvarez was great, fine. I said Neris.
Oh, okay. No, I thought you said Alvarez and Neris. My bad. I was tripping. It's a long night, everybody.
A long night from hell.
It's been a very long night. I appreciate you guys sticking with me here. But I don't know about you, Biscuit, but you got anything for Thursday's game? Obviously against the former prospect, which he pitched well against us last year, if I remember correctly. I think. I don't know. What do you expect? Obviously, we all expect the lefties to be in the lineup. Do you expect a big time thing from anyone, like in terms of, like, I don't want to say a blowout, but just from the way these lefties are really starting to hit, like, do you give the Orioles really any chance? And obviously, you gotta give them a chance, but you would expect this one, if they were to have to take one, that you'd expect this game to be the most definite win out of the two, right?
I think the game that I think would be, if they're going to win one this series, I think it'll be tomorrow. You have a really, and I think looking back to the games, to the Sunday doubleheaders, and how horrible that day was, and then the showing that they put up yesterday night against the Braves, I think we might see something similar with tonight heading into tomorrow, just because it was an awful showing. And the offense was great, but the pitching, it was laughable. The defensive miscues were laughable, and it was just a really embarrassing loss, and people are frustrated, and I'm sure people, within the organization and on the team are frustrated as well. I think tomorrow's one of those games where you got to kind of like get down and gritty with it. Like, you need to hit the ground running. You got to score runs early. Given that the starter isn't the most successful, it's possible. I think I'd feel more comfortable if Arrieta was starting tomorrow, but, you got to get what you get with, especially with the rest of this rotation that's not named Aaron Nola or Zach Wheeler or eventually maybe even Spencer Howard. But it really comes down to, like I said earlier, they got to get it done and win. They just got to get it done. The bullpen has literally played a hand in every single loss they've experienced this season. That's just unfathomable. And what disheartens me as a fan is that it really kind of shows me that this ownership and this team could do the dog and pony show all they want and say that they're trying to compete and bring a trophy back to this city. But until anything's seriously done with trying to make up this bullpen to make it at least a serviceable major league bullpen, I don't buy that. I don't buy that Clentac or John Middleton did absolutely nothing to address this pen. I don't buy that they didn't, go after at least one of those relievers that they invited to camp. You mean to tell me out of all of those back-end veteran relievers that they got, they're not really back-end, but, the list goes on. You have guys like Drew Storen, you have Bud Norris, you have Anthony, what's his last name? Swarzak. You have Francisco Liriano. You mean to tell me that none of those guys would be better than what we're dealing with right now?
The last two you said definitely should have made the team.
Well,
the two
I
ladders
agree. I agree. I completely agree with you. Francisco Liriano not making this team absolutely, it's just a mind fuck to me on why he isn't with this organization right now. It's just like, you went with this.
Because what righties? Why would you take Guerra? Guerra's never had a good MLB career. Swarzak might have not looked as good in camp, but he has.
If I see that man come out of the bullpen one more time, I might just explode because he's probably the most infuriating thing I've seen in a long time come out of that bullpen. And they had some doozies in there last year. I cringed every time Jared Hughes ran out of that pen. It's worse with Guerrera or Guerrero, however you say it.
He won't be here long, so it don't matter.
But let me just say this. I know it's going to be it's pretty much a no name at this point, but you know what name I'm going to be paying attention to these next few weeks is Robert Stock. And the reason why I say that is because the Boston Red Sox just called him up after the Phillies designated him for assignment. The Red Sox jumped on him so fast, and now he's getting called up. I know the Red Sox don't have the best bullpen, but I'm interested to see what this guy does because after the Phillies designated him for assignment, you know who the Phillies signed? Trevor Kelly, who is now designated for assignment. So they basically essentially swapped Kelly for Stock. I'm very interested to see what this guy does in the next few weeks to see if the Phillies really mismanaged another pitching situation. Again, I know Robert Stock.
Andrew, that I know Robert Stock need to annoy me more with because Boston's my second team. So we've got Trevor Kelly. I had to watch him on 2 of my teams and want to gouge my eyes out both times. So
yeah, we'll see how he does. But no, but I'm with you, Biscuit. It's just frustrating at this point. And I forget your exact words when you said right there, but it made me think of this, and I wanted to ask this as well. And I'll go. I mean, both of you can touch on it. But are either one of you worried for a game tomorrow in the sense of the mental aspect of the game? Like you go from that Braves game where you're up 13-1, you give up 7 in the 9th, and you barely survive that game. Then you go to a game like tonight where obviously, I mean, we just had mental breakdown after mental breakdown. It cost the team this game. Are you guys worried about like the way they just approach the game tomorrow? Not worrying about any matchups. And obviously that's something we kind of worried about last year. And as much as I like Kapler, it's something you worried about with a game like Kapler's. How does the team respond? This is the first time I really feel like I'm really interested to see how the team responds for Girardi, for the team as a whole, chemistry aspect. Like this was the first real breakdown of the season. And my question is, are you guys worried about the response? And I don't want to pick out on any players, just as a team overall. And either one of you can start.
Well, like I said earlier, I think, look, the defensive miscues tonight, it sucks. You don't want to see it, but it is a part of our game. It happens. It's one of those things where I think it's going to be water under the bridge. There were some misplays tonight. It's going to happen. I don't think that'll really linger over in tomorrow with anything on the defensive or offensive side of the game. But I will say this about our bullpen, because as much as, blowing a lead or giving up runs is a part of baseball, it happens, having this horrifically bad of a bullpen is pretty unfathomable. And I think these guys are getting in their heads. I think they know what people are saying about them. I think they know what people are feeling about them. And I just don't really see the confidence right now in any of those guys. Sure, Tommy Hunter can come out and say, I'll be back from this and I'll come back from my rough outing. I believe he said that after he blew the lead in the Jem Nola toss and I believe it was game 2 of the Yankees series. It was game 2 of the second game of the doubleheader with the Yankees. For him to come back and say, I'll be back from this, it doesn't matter if you're not going to produce. And none of these guys are in that place right now where they're going out there and pitching confidently. That's scary. And that's really scary because the last thing, if you're not confident in yourself, and I could attest to this, just being a performer and doing theater, if you're not fully confident in yourself, you're going to struggle. That's just the nature of the game. When you give it your all and you believe in yourself, regardless of what the outcome is, that is really like what produces or yields your best results. And right now, I just don't think any of the guys have that mentality. So that's scary. That's really scary because these guys are just so in their heads.
Nate, you brought up a lot of good points. Borek, what are your thoughts on that?
I was going to say, you brought up the mental, and I completely agree with what you said of the bullpen. Where it will creep into your hitters and lineup is how much you have to score. Unless if your starter's just dominating and you're like, okay, this guy's running roughshod, we probably got 8 8 2/3 at least, and then we might need to get one batter out of our pen. We should be able to do that, hopefully. So that's the only situation there, like Kruk kind of joked about in yesterday's post game. But it's just annoying. I mean, it's going to creep into the hitters. It always happens. You don't see it right away. The offense continues to do well, but we saw it last year. The mentality, it eventually creeps in, because if you're going in there every night going, we got to score at least 5 runs, that's not easy on you after a long time to say as an offense, we got to score at least 5 to 7 runs to have a chance to win a game, and it doesn't even have to have anything to do with what your starter did. Wheeler pitched decent today. He didn't pitch his greatest outing, but he gave up 8 hits through 5 2/3 and had a couple strikeouts again. So he looked solid. He battled through. Noah looked great, but our bullpen still stunk. I mean, it's like Biscuit said, the energy is going to get drained eventually. That is going to trickle down to the hitting like it did last year. So you need to fix this quick.
My bad, Andrew. I just wanted to throw this in there because we brought it up before the show. God only knows what Ricky Bo would say in his post-game show. But the headline for the Twitter for NBC Sports Philadelphia, I thought this game was an embarrassment to baseball. And that's – and you know what? I'm not one to really – those guys say a lot of, sensationalized things like that. Like this was, a horrible showing, or this was the most embarrassing game I've ever seen. And like sometimes I think it's just heat of the moment, like you see a tough loss and it is what it is. But really tonight with this showing, to really be behind, to blow a lead, be behind for your offense that has from time to time been streaky or not consistent, for them to come back and get this game back into their grasp and to just blow it again and to repeat, like, it's unfair. It's unfair. And, it really, like, you can blame these pitchers. They're not major league pitchers. This bullpen is not a major league ready bullpen. There's literally no one you feel like you can consistently rely on. And that's no one's fault except for this ownership.
Well, and I mean, you bring up a great point there real quick. And, I mean, you said it's an embarrassment to baseball, and it absolutely was an embarrassment to baseball, because you know what? Not only did the Phillies play bad, but the Baltimore Orioles looked horrendous as well. Like they tried to give us that game right back, and it's just unbelievable how bad both teams.
It was the Bad News Bears 1 versus the Bad News Bears 2.
Exactly.
It seriously was.
Right.
It's unfathomable. And this is like what I'm talking about starting to count the wins and losses. Like, this is going to be one of those games I sit up at the end of September and say to myself, this could have been the reason we were a game over 500 instead of like a couple games, or this is the reason why we're behind or whatnot. Like, it's one of those things where if this season does not go as planned, we will look back at tonight and say this was one of the reasons why.
Yeah, and you mentioned how the post game always likes to bring up a lot of stuff and rip on guys. So I'll say this: I don't know if you saw what Michael Barkant said about Nick Pivetta last night, but I feel like it goes for a lot of guys in that bullpen. This is Barkant's exact quote, and the quote starts here. He is not a major league pitcher. He is wearing a major league uniform. He gets into the major league games, but he does not have the skills necessary possessed by a major leaguer. End quote. And like, I just feel like, I know he was talking about Pivetta in that situation, but that speaks for more than just Pivetta in that pen. And again, hopefully it changes. But I mean, we ripped on him a good amount tonight, rightfully so. I think we did a good job there. But I think it's final thoughts time as we're above the hour mark. We'll start with you, Borek. What are your final thoughts? Anything you want to mention? Go ahead.
Yeah, well, since we're doing the ads, I'll throw one to Jamie for the Flyers Nitty Gritty, since they're actually a good team in this city. So check out Flyers Nitty Gritty website for the Flyers coverage. And also my final thought is that the Phillies starting pitching, like we hinted at, is still looking good. I hope Eflin can continue that yesterday. Again, righty-heavy lineup, so that should benefit. Or yesterday, can continue that tomorrow. Jesus. But he's going to continue that tomorrow, hopefully. And then Arrieta, I think, is going to continue to pitch well. So I think hopefully we can win these next few games. But again, it's the bullpen. But the starting pitching Wheeler looked solid still. Noah looked solid. I liked what I saw overall from Howard, who needs to start, and not Vince Velasquez. So I like our starting pitching. So I'll leave it on a positive and say I think I'm going to continue to like our starting pitching, especially if Spencer, the man, the myth, the legend, Howard, is thrown into that rotation. So still think Wheeler's going to bounce back and be top 5 in that Cy Young with Noah, though. So we're still going to have 2 top 5 Cy Young winners, ladies and gentlemen, and Arrieta will be sitting 18 to 20. Be a nice top 18 to 20 guy.
No, I mean, you bring up a good point with that bullpen. It's like you can't predict any wins anymore. Like I can't sit here and say for confidence, oh, Philly's going to go out and win those next 2 or 3 games. You just can't with this bullpen. Like, it doesn't matter who they're facing. You don't know what's going to happen, and whether it's a lead or not, you can't predict wins anymore with this team. And Biscuit, I don't want to make you more angry, but I got something that's going to get you a little angrier tonight. As I mentioned, I got information on JT. I don't know if you might have saw this tweet already because it came out like 5:30, I think, around 5:30 today. This guy's exact tweet is, I'm told JT Realmuto hasn't set a deadline for his contract talks with the Phillies because there have not been any discussions since the pandemic shutdown. He has never once received an actual offer yet, but he has said he's willing to discuss a deal at any point during the season, but the team has not initiated any talks. So, Biscuit, what is your final thought for tonight?
Look, all I'm going to say is, if I know the Phillies organization, they are very airtight when it comes to leaks and stuff like that. And from what I really have learned the last 2 off seasons and trade deadlines is that things fly out, things are tweeted, and they could either have all the significance of truth in the world or none at all. So here's what I'm going to say. Here's my official stance on what I think about the JT Realmuto contract extension talks. Until JT Realmuto is donning another team's uniform, I'm going to at least remain optimistic that the Phillies are in on him and are making that effort to re-sign him. I don't think JT's walking just yet. I still do have faith that the organization is going to turn around and sign him. Even if talks really haven't picked up a lot just yet, there's still time. I still think it is going to happen. I really do have faith in that. So like I said, it's going to be one of those things. I'll be mad when he's not here anymore, or unless it's pretty evident that he is not coming back. Let's say there's a situation where he hits free agency, then I'll get more concerned. But until then, I'm just going to let the tweets come and go as they pass. And I'm going to try not to get too in over my head with them.
Hey, like they say, we always end on the bright side.
Well, yeah, and that's like I said, that's one of those things. Like I look back to the Bryce Harper free agency saga, and there were tweets that Bryce Harper doesn't want to play for Gabe Kapler and his quirky analytics or stuff like that, and it's meaningless, it's weightless, it's stuff just being floated out there. I kind of saw that. I saw it today, Andrew, and I kind of felt like it was the same thing. It might hold some truth. I'm not saying it isn't truthful at all, but it's not something that's making me hit a panic button just yet. But as always, that does bring me to my final thought, which, it's signed JT Realmuto. Guy's great. Guy's a star, future Hall of Fame catcher, the whole spiel. You guys know it. Real final thought for the night, just because I got to say something different. Win 2 or 3 against Baltimore. Be 500 for the Mets series when you should have Spencer Howard, Aaron Nola, and Zach Wheeler all lined up for those 3 games against the Mets. That could be a really fun series with all 3 of those guys starting. And please, for the love of God, Clentac, John, someone, Jesus, do something. Do something. This bullpen needs something. Just like if God, just give this bullpen a little bit of glory. Show a little bit of mercy on us pitiful Phillies fans. Because I don't know. I don't know about you guys, but I think I aged tonight watching this game. I think I got older. I think I lost time on my lifespan watching this game tonight. And I'm being dramatic, but at the same time, I'm not being dramatic because that was horrific.
I agree. I aged because I watched this whole game for those innings and had money on a game that went to 5 overtimes. So I double aged today.
So you should be drinking right now, Borek.
Yeah. Well, no. I'm fine with the other game because my team won. We're all good. but the second game not so much. No.
No, I agree with everything, and I echo everything. It's time to make a change. It's desperation mode for this bullpen. It's desperation. You got to find ways to fix it. It doesn't seem like any answers are coming soon from track record, but hopefully we're wrong. Hopefully they contact. I know you'll listen to this show. I mean, listen up. As Biscuit mentioned, it's time to do something. Go out, sign people, sign JT. You heard it here, but I mean, just a roller coaster of emotions these last two nights. I mean, from Sunday's debacle of two games to yesterday's roller coaster to tonight's roller coaster. Hopefully something changes soon. Again, like you said, go away or go out, find a way to win these final two games against Baltimore. Have some positivity into the weekend. But that's all we got for tonight. The last thing is don't forget, go check out Just Food. Once again, their number is 215-794-3663. And as always, go check out the Jackdaws. Fantastic band. They give us our intro and outro music. I'm going to send this one off to the Jackdaws to take us out. Go and find them at www.jackdaws.com. For Borek and for Biscuit, I'm Andrew Santangelo. Another episode of Chase Independent. Let's go Phillies. Find a way to get to 2. Have a good night, everyone.
A fighting man I used to be, revered and feared through Killarney. Now I'm back to hitching with the wind. But if Mickey Flynn should ever find me, I'll throw me caution all behind me and square off on that son of a bitch again. He cracked open a river too, he beat me Sunday through and through, and so jiggle my unconscious frame. I won me healthy sheriff fights, well lucky son still had me life since Mickey Flynn beat me dumb and lame.